Okay, so good morning, year two. Welcome back to our history class. I'm really excited to keep talking about some history stuff with you. So let's everyone just like sit on the floor really quickly so we can all have a quick chat and discuss the stuff we've been talking about so far. So just as a little reminder about what we've been talking about so far in history being the study of things from the past, who can give me an example of something that's happened in the past before? Something like you had breakfast, or you woke up, or we had maths class before this. That's true. But yeah, in history here we're going to be talking a lot about the big things like cultures and stuff like that kind of thing. So today we're going to be learning a lot about myths and legends from ancient people and cultures. So who can give me a good explanation on what they think ancient means? Yeah, hands, please. Yeah, I will put our hands up. So ancient would be something definitely not recent. I wouldn't say like your grandma or grandpa would be ancient. This is something that happened a long time ago, way before anyone you know or anyone really that they know. This is a long time ago. And hands up, please, if anyone can tell me what they think a myth would be. Who's heard that? Has anyone heard that word before? Maybe your mom or your dad might have told you something. A myth. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take examples, but then I'll explain that. A myth is it's sort of like a story told in ancient times. Some people might believe in it, some people might not. It's sort of a little bit linked to our religious beliefs sometimes, but generally they can be considered like a story, and sometimes they have a motto or like a moral behind it, like a fairy tale sort of thing. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a good story. So we're going to be talking a little about some myths and stories. Does anyone remember any cultures that we've been talking about recently? Greece and Egypt and China and Rome. Yes, from ancient Italy. So today we're going to start with a story or a myth, as it were. So everyone get comfy. I don't have a book, but I'm just going to tell you a story from ancient Greece, and I first heard it when I was sort of about your age. Okay, so the story today is of a prince from the ancient Greek city of Athens, which is still a city today. Like, it still exists. But this is a long time ago, because the Greeks have been around forever. There was a prince named Theseus, and one day he's got to sail off to a small island called Crete, because once a year 7 boys and 7 girls are taken there and given to a terrible monster known as the Minotaur, which is half bull, half man. Terrifying. And they're dropped inside a maze known as a labyrinth. A labyrinth, big strong word there, called a labyrinth. But essentially it's just a big maze. And Theseus goes, and the night before this is all supposed to go down, the princess of the island comes to him, Princess Ariadne, and gives him a ball of string and a sword so that he can find his way back once he's dropped inside the labyrinth after he fights this Minotaur, this terrible Minotaur. And so the pair do battle, and he grabs it by the horns, and he manages to prevail, and then the prince and the princess and all the Greek boys and girls sail away from the island where no children are ever sent again. And it all ended happily ever after. Yeah. So, nice story, right? It's not too bad. But how do we, know this story? My dad told it to me, and I'm telling it to you now, but who told my dad? So, sometimes stories and myths like this are passed down, from parent to child, or maybe, from a grandparent. Maybe your grandma or grandpa's, told you a story like an old story from your culture. Has anyone ever like heard a story like that sort of before, maybe from somewhere else? Yeah, hands? Yes? No? Maybe so? Okay, we're going to circle back to those later just because we're strapped for time. But yeah, so they can be told from teacher to student. It's called an oral history, like it's just a spoken word. And can anyone think from our studies of another culture where stories and knowledge are passed from word of mouth? Hands, please. Yes, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, exactly. So they have a long oral tradition of just telling the elders telling the next generation information. So that's a very interesting way of telling myths, but the great thing about Greek myths and legends is there's also some physical, some like hands-on stuff that we can find that gives us some information. So the ancient Greeks love to make pottery, and they drew all kinds of like pictures and stuff on the side. So here's some pottery of the story that we've just shown. I'm going to put it up on my slides up here, up on my interactive whiteboard here. So what can we see on these pots that are showing that story? We can see the prince with his sword, Theseus. We can see the sword that he was given by the princess. We can see the minotaur that with his bull horns, and maybe the princess Ariadne is in here, and maybe the string that she gave to Theseus. So all of that's here in this pottery. And has anyone thought of any other places where you might have seen this picture before? Next slide. Here in our city. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Hyde Park before, but in the fountain there is a statue of the legend, the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. So history is tricky like this because it's a little bit like a puzzle where we have to figure out the past based on the pieces we have. Because do these pots tell you all the details about this? That this is Theseus the prince and he sailed from Athens and there were 7 boys and 7 girls and there was a labyrinth and all of this stuff and Ariadne's a princess? Like, I don't know about you, it's a bit hard for me to read that. So it's a bit of a puzzle that we have to work backwards and piece everything together. It's known as archaeology, is the study of digging things up and finding out what all of it meant. I actually studied as an archaeologist before I was a teacher. Fun fact for you all, year 2. So today's task is, I'm going to give you a picture of one of these ancient pots here. Next slide. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes, either in pairs or by yourself. And I want you to think, you can write down if you like, take some notes if you want, what you think the story is. And then after then, I'll give you another picture, and then you can tell me, you can change what you think if the next pot adds more detail, or you can stay with what you had and we'll have another 5 minutes, and then we'll all come back together and we can all share our ideas, and you tell me what you think, and then I'll read you the story as it's been known to most of us, and we can see how close we all got. So I'll let you go away. We'll pretend that all happens. Okay, everyone, coming back to the floor now, please. And sitting with your pairs, and hands up if you'd like to tell me what you think has happened in this story. And I'll take hands and hands and hands. Yes, so all good guesses, but this boy here, this man, is known as Hercules or Heracles, depending on where you're from. And this terrifying dog here is known as Cerberus, and the story goes that Hercules was told to go down into the underworld, essentially like hell. I don't know if anyone's ever been to church, but the place where people go when they die in Greek myths, and fetch this terrible dog, not terrible dog, he's a good dog, but he's a bit scary, from the lord of the underworld, Hades, and bring it back as a labor that he was forced to do by his cousin, the king. And here we can see in the next photo, Hercules brings the dog back, and this king is so scared that he's hopped into a pot to try and escape from the dog with lots of heads, who's very big and very scary. So it's a bit tricky to piece all of that together, but that's the joy of our history task today. So that's how we can learn all kinds of interesting information about the past and past cultures, in this case, the ancient Greeks, based on the objects that we find buried in the earth and all around these ancient locations. All right, thanks so much, Year 2. That's the end of our lesson for now.